Hey guys, this is Angela with Wildstyle. We finally had a really nice day and we were up close to 80 degrees yesterday. So we need to get some water to the plants that are throughout the yard, our perennials. We are still going to have probably several frost nights. Usually our last frost is not until average on May 15th. So we are still going to have some last frost. But I like to go ahead and get my hoses hooked up, get them some water in the meantime because in Wyoming, our perennial plants usually do need water throughout the winter season as we just often don't get enough water for them. Especially where I live, the soil is very sandy and so the water just drains through fairly quickly. So we're going to go ahead and plug in our watering drip system today and we're going to check each of the plants and make sure that they are getting water, and I'll give you a little bit of a tour of the plants as we go through and do that since I haven't given you a tour. We're going to just start with the plants that I have right now along the front of the house. And I've got my kids here helping me today. They're going to help me check for water on the drip lines. We're also going to be looking for any leaks in the watering system and we can repair those as we come across them. And I wanted to show you how I carry it kind of around my tools for that. So let me head on over to the porch and we will check that out real quick. Okay, so this is actually a little toolbox kit that I got from one of our hardware stores. I think it's Performax brand, but what I keep in here is everything that I would need to install or repair parts of our drip line, except for the hose, because that doesn't fit in here, obviously. But I keep the different emitter heads. There's different sizes you can use. I think these red ones are 2 gallons per hour. I think this brown one's a bigger. I think they're like 5 or 10. I can't remember for sure, but they're a bigger gallon per hour one. The black ones are 1 gallon per hour. And then this is a different style that I got that doesn't work as well. And so I think I've just kind of separated those out because I found that they haven't worked as well. This is a tool that you use to poke holes in the tube so that you can then stick your emitters or your connectors in. Usually I try and keep all the connectors in there. So there's T connectors, and then there's just straight connectors. And there's also usually elbow connectors, and I don't usually stock the elbow connectors because most of the time this size is a 1/4 inch size, and if I need to turn a curve, usually I can just make a curve instead of actually making an L shape. That hose is flexible enough. Once you get up to the bigger 1/2 inch size, I do have the elbows for that size. I also have straight pieces for that, and then I usually have T's for that. So I think I'm out right now. I might have some more in the garage. I'll have to go look later. I also keep in here landscape staples. So as I put in the tubing, I will then staple that in place because the antelope and the dogs and the cats and the wind, everything comes along and moves that tubing out of place. I like this tool. This has a cutter piece, so you can see that. So if you stick the tubing in here and then squish it together, it will then cut the tubing. And then it also has the poker end, so you can stick your tubing in there and punch that in, and that creates the hole for your connectors to use. And then I just have, these are kind of stakes emitters, so you stick that down into like a pot of a plant or something, and then you can adjust how much water comes out. So I've got a couple of those in there in case I need them. I rarely use those. So that is the box I carry around with me when I am installing new drip or checking the drip line. So a lot of times I'll even just try and have it in my garden cart if I'm out working on gardening stuff, because a lot of times you will see drips that you don't know were there. The trick with this container is once you open that lid, you want to keep it flat because the individual cells are not connected to anything, and so if you tip it, they will fall out. And I have had it dump out in the middle of the field more than once. So keep those together as best as you can, and keep it flat when you're working with it and opening it up in the field, and then make sure it's fully latched before you go to lift it up. But otherwise, this has been a great tool for storing these. It fits everything that I need and keeps them organized. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get working on checking the drip line along the front of the house. And so I turned the drip line onto the house, well, it's probably been 5 minutes or so ago. So that, if you can give it a couple minutes to start dripping, I feel like that works a little bit better because you can see where the water is a little bit easier. So it's going to make it easier as we go along and check to see where the water is. Let's go ahead and go to the start of this drip line. Okay, so this is where this drip line starts. Right now we just have it connected to a spigot on the house. And so once we're done today, we'll go ahead and unplug this And that way, if we do have another night that freezes, we won't have our pipes freezing along with it. Okay? So sometimes the actual drip line can freeze, but I really don't have any problems with it usually, as long as I can give it a couple of hours before a freeze. It seems to do just fine. It's a flexible enough pipe that actually takes freezing and thawing fairly well. We installed this drip. It's probably been a couple years ago now, and I haven't replaced the main line. I've replaced a couple of individual lines, but it works great. We haven't had any issues with it, anything major. So we're gonna go ahead and get that checked today. I'll try and give you a little tour as we go through that. So, okay, so the first piece that's connected on this drip line is actually this garden bed that's right off our grass. It's very overrun with weeds right now and grass. It does have some perennial plants in it, has some bulbs that occasionally flower, but I do struggle with the bulbs. So just want to make sure that all of these lines have water, and you can see the water dripping out of that. And so we just need to kind of check every line as it goes across. So I have my kids here helping me with that and make sure that, oh, it's dripping water all the way up and down it. Okay. Look at this one is tricky. So while they're checking that, this bed has some perennials. I think this is balm coming up, and it's spreading actually. I've got some clear over here, and I'm excited about that because it was a beautiful plant. It's one of the first ones to pop up, and it had flowers on it that were just beautiful last year, and it flowered for a long time. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll show you that when those flowers get bigger. I've got several mums in here. Some of them need to be repotted because they are too close together, so I'm going to move some to a different bed. Oh, I just love those little hyacinths. Those turned out beautifully. Okay, girls, how are we doing?
This one's not seeming to drip. This one? Oh, yeah, that's fine. There was a hole that wasn't dripping. This one?
Oh, I can see that one over here. What about this one? I can feel water there and there. I just don't know if it's... Is there water in this one? Yeah? Okay. That's good. Okay, so then we do need to make sure there should be another line right here. Okay, so on this end, I put plastic down the other day, trying to kill the grass underneath, but I actually think, if anything, it's making it greener and happier. I'm not sure that's going to work, but I read online that you could do that. I'm not impressed at this point. I do have a coral berry bush down here that gets beautiful pink berries, and it looks great. Is it getting water, Bree? So we may have to rework how we water this bed. I may have to do some individual emitters to my perennials just to see if I can't have less weeds and grass in here. I think there's just too much water with the way we have this drip set up in a grid-like pattern. Okay, there's the hole. It is getting water out of it for this coral berry plant. We had to dig through some grass to find that, but it should be getting watered. And I kind of seemed like it struggled a little bit last year, so I did not cut it back this year. I'm just going to let it do its thing and hope that it does a little bit better. Okay, now the rest of this drip, these are on individual lines with individual emitters per plant. So we're going to have to go through and look at each plant, make sure we've got the line in the right spot and that there's no leaks. So this first plant is a Weigella. It's hard to see because there's a lot of grass in there. Hurry up. Hopefully it can come back. This is the second plant I've tried in this spot. This spot gets full sun 16 plus hours a day. And so plants just struggle in this spot because it's so hot and so sunny. I'm not sure what to put here yet, but we'll see how this Weigella does, and I may need to change that out for something else. But it is getting water. This is just a little variety of bluegrass. The next plant is a hydrangea. Now we can only do panicle hydrangeas here because our zone gets so cold. And so these are the usually pinks to red variety. We can't get the blue variety. Okay, so now that is getting water, but it looks like it's really short hose. And so let's go ahead and extend that hose. Now this hydrangea got me really excited because you could see just the hints of green coming out, indicating spring, that this plant is going to come up and grow. But these do like water, and so maybe part of its issue is that the hose is just too short. So anytime the dog bumps it, or the cats, or the people, it might have got knocked off, and it may not be getting enough water. So we're just going to lengthen that a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I have is a straight coupler. I'm just going to plug that into the end. It's getting plenty of water, so I don't need to replace anything. I don't even need to clean up that end. I'm just going to stick one side on there, and then we'll stick the other 1/4 inch hose on the other end. Okay, so now that we've got some more hose, I'm just going to kind of gently measure it out. Usually I like to have it go to at least halfway across the plant and just maybe a touch further. So I'm going to use my cutting tool, and I'm going to cut this hose the length I want it, and then I'm just going to whisk this onto that connector. And now it's coming out that end. I now have a longer hose, which fits nicely up underneath the plant. Sometimes I'll just kind of stick a little rock to help so the dog doesn't move them. Make sure it's still getting water. Sometimes you can get a rock that's too much pressure on it, cuts off the water. And with that, we've got that plant ready. We're going to move on to our next plant, right? So once we check that the water is good, we need to put the rock back on top, because Yahtzee comes through and he walks and he catches this. So we need to kind of make sure that there's rocks just over it a little, hopefully preventing him from catching them and pulling them out. Okay. Our next plant is another white jello. This white jello looks much better than the first one. It gets a little bit more shade here, so I think it has a little bit of an easier time. And it's also got a pretty short hose. So we're going to go ahead and fix that hose while we're here. Okay, so I had to go get another bag because I'm out of these straight couplers. So this Rainbird brand, and we get it from Menards. And it comes, there's probably 10 in the bag. I'm going to throw those in my container over here, restock them. Okay, and then there again, I'm going to just cut off about what I need, a hose length. And I'm actually going to stick this coupler on this one before I stick it on the water one. That is the easier way to do it. And I like to start with the less pointy end into the one that doesn't have water running. If you don't have your water turned on, it doesn't matter. If you do have your water turned on, it's easier to do the pointy end, and that water creates pressure. So that pointy end just makes it easier to push in with the additional pressure from the water. Once you put that on, make sure it's coming all the way out the other end. Stick that up onto your plant. And I'll just stick a little rock over it, try and keep it in place. You can also use landscape staples. I do have some of those occasionally. That helps. This plant is a hibiscus, a hardy hibiscus that goes down to zone 4. Last year was my first year with it. It did great last summer. I'm hoping that it comes back this year, but I have not seen activity on it yet, which is okay. It's early still, so that's not the end of the world, but we'll keep watching it. Okay, this beautiful bush is a 9 bark. It's a, I can't remember which variety. It's a dark variety. It's got some buds on it. It's going to be happy. So it's got water to it. This is a dwarf spruce. It got a little bit dry and wind burnt on the side, but it's recovering fairly quickly here. We've had some snow the last couple weeks, so it is recovering with that water. It's looking good. Okay, this tiny little thing that you probably can't even see is a hydrangea. It struggled in the spot. It gets hit with my sprinklers from our grass, which is just over here, because we have a really hard time getting this section of grass wet enough. It's usually dry. As you can see, a dry patch here. So I'm hoping to have somebody come in and add a sprinkler head on this end that then shoots out that way. That can help with this grass issue so that we can rein in the sprinkler better. And hopefully it won't hit this hydrangea, which has been struggling. So we'll see if that comes back this year. Okay, this one you also probably can't see. I'm hoping to give you a better tour when these actually start budding out, leafing up a little bit. But this is a mock orange. It's supposed to smell very fragrant and just have some beautiful flowers. Well, next to that, I think this one's dead, so I may have to replace it. It was a burning bush. At the bottom, though, is growing out some sedum that came from over here. And this is a dark-leaved variety of sedum that's very beautiful. That area is getting water, just a little bit of water coming out of there, which is fine. Sedum actually prefer to be in a little bit of drought, so it won't mind that there's not a rush of water coming out of there. This is a little spirea that just struggled last year. The weed is bigger than the spirea. I'm not even sure I can get that out, though, without hurting the spirea. But it does have water coming to it. So this is the hard part about having plants in Wyoming is even if you buy a big full-size plant, oftentimes our winters are so harsh and they're not used to it, they die back to nothing. And then it's kind of a gambling game of whether or not they're going to come back. So sometimes you can take a big full-size plant, even full-size trees, and they will die off and come back up from the roots, which then takes years for it to get back up to that big tree that it was that you bought. So sometimes I find it's actually easier to start with a smaller tree and let it grow bigger, just because then it gets strong from the beginning and it's not growing back from other roots. It doesn't have that damage. It can just toughen out from the very beginning. But it's hard because they're so slow growing here that you want to start with a bigger plant. So it's kind of a toss up. Up here we have a yellow twig dogwood. Beautiful looking bush. I trimmed that up a little bit earlier, cut out all the dead stuff. It's a nice looking bush. Okay, I think this is a tiny little lily, daylily, or lily of some variety. Lots of weeds in there around it, but the main lily is popping out, is getting a little bit of water. Okay, this is a hydrangea. Again, a panicle variety. It's either a limelight or a quickfire. I'm not sure which variety, but it's one of those two. I know I planted those both out here. Back behind that, we have a red twig dogwood. It is actually starting to turn from, you can see, deep red to orange now. It's working its way towards green. Those stems will turn green, and then it'll get green flowers and little white leaves. But it's a good looking bush. Here we've got, I think, another variety of daylilies that are going to pop up. Some more lilies here. These are the Asiatic lily variety. Got some peonies here with their stake. Holds that peony plant up when they come up. So last year I had one peony flower. I'm hoping this will be its third year, so I'm hoping that we get more flowers this year that pop up. Okay, more Asiatic lilies here. They are getting some water. Another daylily. This is a penstemon. I think it's a midnight variety, but it should have dark leaves that pop up. And you can kind of see some growth down in there. They have green, and then I think they start green and turn to a dark, and then it's got some beautiful, just pink purple colored flowers. This is a ground cover rose. It's turning green. It's excited to come back this year. I just planted that last summer. You can see some new leaves, new growth down in there. I'm very excited for that rose to come back. Okay, and this side, we're on the other side of the house now. It's very similar, almost symmetrical, but not 100% to the other side. So we have our red twig dogwood there, panicle hydrangea variety there. Down along the front, I've got lilies, both the daylilies and the Asiatic lily varieties that will come up. The yellow twig dogwood here. Some more sedum here. This is a slightly different variety than the one that was on the other side. It's not quite as dark. It's got a little bit more red tones to it. Okay, here's the other mock orange. It's already green. It's got some buds. Problem is the antelope have come through and shoot off all the tops. So I'm not sure how much growth or flowers we'll get on this year. I'm not 100% sure. These two I planted late last year. They might be a couple more hydrangeas. Just kind of wait and see. There's another dwarf variety of spruce. And that one got both eaten by antelope and just battered by the wind. So between the two, it's really struggling on the one side. I do expect it to recover, but it's going to be slow recovery. The cat's out here loving life. I'm pretty sure she's laying on one of the plants. Okay, this is a sand cherry mixed with something. I can't remember. I'm going to have to look and see if I can figure that out. But again, the antelope just got to it and ate the tops off of that. So I don't know how much growth we'll get from it. It does have some buds way down the bottom. You can see those, but it's got no activity up at the top where the antelope have eaten it. So I'm not sure how much growth we'll get with this plant this year. We'll see. Okay, and the plant that the cat was laying on is a black lace elderberry. It struggled in this spot, but it is coming up this year. I don't know if you can see that because it blends in with the bark, but just has just the tiniest of leaves popping out. So hopefully it does better this year than it has in past years. I think it also gets eaten by the antelope. A couple of major differences on this side of the house is some of these plants on the end, the sand cherry, some of these extra hydrangeas, is because I do have more room on this side of the house as it goes back towards the side yard and the field. Part of what I want to do is get these bushes to grow up just a little bit, see if they can't help hide our septic tank pole. But this other two plants that are on this side, I have a yew, and I'm surprised antelope have not eaten it because they love them. I think it's maybe just close enough to the house that they haven't done anything with that. And then to the left of that is a fine line buckthorn, which is also one of my favorite varieties. They just grow up in that nice conical shape. They just stay real nice looking, and they just look beautiful and fern-like for us. Which here in Wyoming, we don't have a lot of plants that give us that fern-like look. So once that starts popping out later this summer, I will give you a tour of that. Okay, so the kids have checked all the plants I just showed you and made sure that the drips are good. Every plant is getting water. We didn't have any leaks, which is amazing since this hose has just been sitting out all winter through our negative 20 degrees. So that's one reason that I like using the drip tubing, is because it is fairly low maintenance. It's probably taken us about an hour this morning to run through and check all those drips. It is slower because I'm videoing, but it's much less maintenance than spending the time hand watering all of these plants in. And it's nice now that I'm sure they're all getting water when I need to. We have a dry couple of weeks. I can just go plug that hose into the spigot, water all the plants for 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how dry things are, and then turn that spigot back off and unplug them. Later in the summer, as we're watering on a more daily basis, I will set up a timer on that spigot and it'll go automatically. So that takes all the hassle away from it. But right now, where we're still at risk for frost, I'm just going to manually plug in and unplug that. So that's it for this video. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll see you in the next one.